Happy Sunday, listeners. It's your girl, Siera London, along with my co-host, author L. Loren. You there, Lisa? Lisa? Let me see. I can't hear her. Lisa, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, wonderful. And writer Michele Ingrid, you on the line?
I'm here.
All right. I can't see her in StreamYard, but I do hear her voice, so that's a great start. So it's Sunday, and it's time for book chat. And today we are reading my choice for the month, which is Kenya Wright's Redemption. I am so excited for us to get into this book. I was listening to this book trying to relax, I want to say a few months ago, and I was so sucked into the story that I called author Ella Red, and I was like, get this book. And she's like, Sierra, what you trying to do to me? You know I'm trying to write. She's like, you so wrong for this. But anyway, we got sucked in together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and read the back cover copy, and then we're going to get into this story. So, Kenya Wright's Redemption, back cover. All right. Yoshiro escaped a career of crime with the mafia after they killed his family. For 5 years, he dropped out of life. All he wants this Christmas is to be left alone. Then Ebony and her kids accidentally crash onto his property during a snowstorm. For 3 years, they've been running from her husband, who's been more monster than man. The storm picks up. They're forced to remain with Yoshiro until it dies down. And the threat of Ebony's monster remains, lurking within the shadows and threatening her safety. But Yoshiro knows all about death and blood. Her monster doesn't scare him. What has him terrified is that heartwarming feeling sparking between them. The more time Yoshiro spends with Ebony, the more she becomes a Christmas present that he's dying to open. Too bad. She's promised herself that she will never let another man in her or her children's life again. Yet sometimes the best Christmas presents come from a bullet. Ever so often, a good Christmas miracle is a cut-up body to end a nightmare. And even better, at just the right moment, two lonely people can find light in their darkened souls and open their hearts to a new romance. Wow. Right? Big fat.
Yeah.
All I can say is wow. So,
yep. Good assessment.
Tell me, go ahead. I can't see you, Michele Ingrid. If you could click on the link that I sent you, that would be great.
I'm having some technical difficulties.
Okay. So, until then. So, Lisa, did you finish the book? And if so, how many times have you been through it?
Of course, I finished the book, and I have listened to it. I'm not going to tell you how many times because, I don't want to be judged. I have listened to it a few times, okay? I fell in love with this story.
Yeah, that's a good feeling. I can tell you that this particular romantic suspense is also a Christmas story is what just kind of intrigued me about Kenya's skill with the pen. Because even though it's a romantic suspense, and you heard everything I read in that bullet, you heard blood, bullet, and a cut up body. We usually don't associate that with Christmas. But she gave us a little bit of everything with this story, and that's what I love about it. So, Michele Ingrid, did you have to finish the story?
I did finish the book. I finished the book last night and then reread the ending of it this morning.
Okay.
And it's a great story. There's a lot to unpack here for me, and I know we'll get into that later because I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this segment of it.
But it's a great story. I love the heroine. I love how strong she is. But what's even more interesting about this heroine is just how strong her children are.
Mm-hmm.
We got a literary mama and her little warriors. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to ask you, and I'll start with you, Lisa. What's your first impression of the situation that Ebony finds herself in when the story opens? It's Christmas, and she is getting ready to celebrate with her kids, and then you hear this ominous tone when the kids say, "Daddy's here."
Daddy's. Oh my God! When that baby said, "Daddy's here," and the way Kenya described the kids huddling by the window, I'm like, "Oh no, what's going to happen with Daddy?" And then the mystery was soon solved. Daddy came in, and he is a beast. I was like, first I was shocked. I could feel myself in the room with the characters, and I really wanted to protect Ebony. But Ebony did not need my protection. Ebony was a badass woman. Yeah. She had a plan. She had her baby already planned out. This is what happens when Daddy comes. They had bags in the closet, ready to go. They had a all-out plan. And she knew the man very well. When he was threatening her, she knew exactly how to get him where she wanted him, and then she injured him. I'm not even going to say how she injured him. That was genius. I loved it. I just wish it would have been more severe. But how she got away from him and just got on the road, it was like a planned out, it was like executed perfectly. But I hate that her and her children had to go through that for 3 years, running from this man, and couldn't ever just relax and enjoy Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have little babies, an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, and I forgot how young the little one was. 7, I think.
So Poppy was 8.
Poppy was 8. Okay.
Jalen was 10, and Key was 13 or 14.
13. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So those babies had no business going through all of that, and that man was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about you, Michele? What was your first impression of that opening scene where, they're taking pictures in the photo booth, they're happy about Christmas, and then bam, Daddy's here?
Yeah, I was not okay. That was so ominous. That whole sense of the children having that fear, that level of that literal military level of preparation. I mean, after working for the military for as long as I did, that's the kind of preparation that grown men have in the preparation of the federal government saying, you deploy tomorrow.
Yeah.
That was scary to know that these little children were living in the midst of that. That was just not okay. It was so not okay.
Yeah.
That was a struggle to have to watch this family go through that. And I felt so much for these children. I felt for her because she's trying to take the brunt of it, and her kids are prepped for literal war, One of them, I think, at one point, spoilers ahead, one of them grabs a stun gun and is prepped to damage their dad. And that was hard to read. That was very difficult to read.
Yeah. So for me, just seeing how those kids responded, it showed me how bad it had been before this scene. That's what it showed me. And I love that Kenya, in her skill, was able to show us what these kids had already been through without Ebony telling us, because it opens in her voice. And I'm like, just for these kids to not give their mama any trouble, because you know how kids can be this Christmas We focus on presents. We just took pictures. We've been out. We having a good time. And then Daddy's here. Nobody's moaning or groaning. Everybody gets to their post and knows what they're supposed to do. And I love that. I love not only the author's skill, but I love what Ebony does. I love that even though she's scared, she reassures her children and she jumps into action. Like no matter what Ebony did after that, I was in her corner. I'll just say that. That's how I felt about her in that moment.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. I loved Ebony.
Yeah, she's a great character. She's very much, the thing she's called upon to do after that is I'm glad that she was introduced that way, because what comes next on any other heroine could have very much been a story where I was like, I don't know if I buy that she could do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I love too. I felt like the author set us up for me. I felt like she set us up really well for what was to come from this character and what would be required of these children as well, because to say that this is an abnormal upbringing would be an understatement. Like an 8-year-old who, an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 13-year-old. Well, first of all, I have to say this. The 13-year-old had her own stun gun, y'all. Mm-hmm. Now, I can tell you, my husband didn't get me mine until 2016. So I didn't even have
a stun gun. I don't know if that's legal in your state. You might not want to mention that.
Yeah. So I didn't even have a stun gun until then. So I'm like, a 13-year-old is skilled and comfortable with her own stun gun and telling Mom, if Dad gets close enough, I'm going to get him. So that tells you to me that where this family is. Like, even if Mama can't do it, I'm going to try.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that speaks to... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I love Tia for that. She was such a strong little girl. She, no matter what happened to her, she wanted to protect her mom. And she was like, if he comes, I'm going to get him. And Mom was like, no, you just run. She's like, but I don't want anything to happen to you. Yeah. And she was so intuitive. Mom was trying to reassure her, no, nothing's going to happen to me. She's like, yes, it is.
Right.
She knew.
Right. And that's the point, because the kids knew that something very much could happen to their mama. Like, they knew their dad so well that they feared that if we don't intervene, like, something really could happen to our mama. And, I was a little taken aback. I'm like, man, these kids are on it. But then we meet Wyatt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what was your initial reaction? And I'm going to start with you, Michele. I still can't see you, though. If you could go ahead and click your link, that would be great.
I'm having technical difficulties.
What was your original reaction to Wyatt? Like, what did you see when Wyatt came on the scene?
The fact that we heard about him from the children in the manner in which we heard about him before we got to him, that was ominous as hell. Because I did not read the back cover on purpose. I wanted to walk into the book blind. So by not really reading the back cover, I was entering a story where anything could happen. So when the kid said, Daddy's here, and she literally starts military maneuvers, I already knew that he was a bad news and that we were afraid for him to show up. That was one. The way he enters the story where he was so pissed off, that was two. And I was never going to be okay with this character. And then, he doesn't take very long to get into this story and really kick things up. And that is... I hated him. I want to say on sight, but I hated him the moment he showed up on our page. Hated him.